Hey, Community Bible Church. I am sitting here with our new full-time worship director, Josh, and his wife, Amanda. And we know that so many of you haven't had the chance to meet them in person. They've been here the last couple of weeks. Josh even guest-led one weekend. But today, we just thought we would sit down and I would ask you guys just some get-to-know-you questions so that you guys can learn more about them as Josh is beginning his full-time position on Monday of this coming week. Yeah. So, first thing first, I just wanted to ask, how did you guys, well, Josh, where are you from? How did the two of you guys meet? And then also, how did you wind up here in Folsom?
Great. Cool. So, I am from the wonderful land of England. I come from a place called Surrey, which is like kind of near Windsor Castle. That's the closest place to it. And we actually met in England.
Yeah, we met in England.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Auburn, so I'm from this area. We've always lived in like the greater Sacramento area. But I was serving at a Christian music festival. It's called Creation Fest. It's not a plug. But I had been serving there 3 years in a row. My church would go out and send a team, and we'd volunteer. And he was there with his family. Yeah. And we just saw each other and had a little meet cute. And we walked past each other and both kind of did one of those double takes. Yep. It was very, very embarrassing. But I ended up introducing myself. Yep. So that way I was like, he's pretty cute and I've got nothing to lose. So, so that's how we met.
Yeah, so we met in England and then kind of a year of, a few months of long distance, lots of FaceTime. And then Amanda got offered an internship at a church in Cornwall. So kind of for a year, I was driving down from near London to Cornwall every other week. Yeah. We did that for a year. Yeah. Now here we are.
Yeah. Amanda, what did you do at the church that you were serving in?
My title was Children, Youth, and Families Worker. So I did anything that encompassed that, and then. So I was like full-time in the office, so it was a lot of, when you work at a church, you do a lot of different things. Yeah. And so it's like, a little bit of graphics, which I have no idea what I'm doing. But, and so a lot of it was focused in on, any of the kids' work. And they had a lot of good outreach for families in the community, because it's a really small church. Yeah. And it's England, so it's all centered around the main bit of town there. Yeah. So it's just a lot of family outreach.
Josh, tell me, how did you, so you're from England and you worked there. Mm-hmm. That's where you met Amanda, and Amanda's from here, obviously. How did you, just maybe briefly, what was your journey from, well, quite literally from there to here, but also what were you doing there ministry-wise maybe was the springboard to your position here?
Sure. So a couple years ago, I was working for a church called St. John's, and I worked there for about a year in a similar role. So I was helping to run the worship team, whilst a few other things, doing maintenance and some really random jobs kind of pulled together. So I worked in that position. That was my first real experience of kind of full-time ministry and leading a big team. And so growing up, I've had a lot of experience with kind of music, and I've done courses kind of learning about the practical things, but that was a real chance for me to grow in the kind of actual worship leading aspect and the spiritual side to things, and growing in that, which was really great. But actually after that, a lot of my life I've geared my kind of decisions and different things towards joining the Air Force. And so most recently in the UK, I finished my basic, we call it phase 1 training with the Royal Air Force. So I went through that training. It was an incredible experience, but at the end of that, I just felt like the Lord say, actually, I've kind of had you there for a purpose, to witness and to share the gospel with people there, but actually this isn't where I have you. And so he took me from that. I was able to get out of my 12-year contract, and he said, it's kind of provided a door opening for me to come out to the States, for us to get married in the middle of a pandemic, which is insane. Yeah. And just all these things that enabled me to come out here when it really physically should not be able to. Yeah. And the journey from there to here was in a plane.
Yeah, we originally were supposed to get married not till October coming. And we were going to live, our plan was to live in England, to be in the UK. And so we hadn't seen each other since December 2019, Christmas. He went home, and I stayed here. The plan was, go through training, finish all that, and then I'd move out after we got married in October, hopefully. But obviously a pandemic happened, and it totally just changed our plans. I mean, obviously the Lord knew, and He had much greater plans for us. It just, in our mindset, we'd always just imagined, okay, we're going to be in the UK. Like for me, it was really hard to even accept being, even though I live here and I love my family and my friends. It was always like, well, that was the plan. How can we just come here now? Like, what are we going to do? Where are you going to work? What,
For sure.
So I think it was huge steps of faith and like just kind of trusting that the Lord's going to provide completely fresh, because I like had quit my job. I lost my job during the pandemic, and he was coming here and we were getting married, and we were like, all right, let's get married and let's figure it out from there, because we knew the Lord was calling us to be together. And we would have to wait, at least another year of long distance, and we could not see each other in between that. So, him being a dual citizen, he's able to actually come to America. And
when we spoke to you in a staff meeting just a week or two ago, you were telling us, first of all, your mom is from the States. So that's where the dual citizenship comes in. But then also, I'm going to tell this part of the story for you. But you were saying that the 12-year contract that you signed with the Air Force, because of the pandemic, you were given the option and the opportunity to step out of the said contract, correct? So it's just kind of neat to see, that. I mean, from the moment you were born, really, that there was, the foundation was being laid to really make a way for you guys to be literally sitting right here, which is awesome and really cool.
Really cool.
What's something that in the ministry experience that you had in England for both of you that you feel really prepared you for this role, even just prepared you for ministry in suburban Folsom, California, that you guys feel that you can, I guess, bring to the table or kind of lead up in here?
Sure. Well, I think I've served a lot. Like my past church, I was there since I was 16. So just learning to serve faithfully, like as a teenager and as a young adult before going to college, was like a huge, was really, really important, because it taught me like what it looks like to serve Jesus in the body, and just do that faithfully, sometimes unnoticed, and that's a good thing. So, but I think more recently being in England, it was much different experience, like really small church, very like community involved, which not that my church home isn't, but it's just a different lifestyle there. And the small church being on the end of a high street where like all the shops are, it just has a whole like new opportunity, because people are constantly walking by it. The doors are always open. It's across the street from like the police station. It's just it's a small community, and I really like loved that about where I was working, and I think they really utilized it. I know I've talked to you about it before. They had something called Messy Church, and it was a outreach for families who don't go to church, who don't really feel comfortable coming to a morning service on a Sunday, don't really want to step foot into like anything like that. But it was an opportunity for them to come together as a family and hear a small talk and do a small set of worship. But there was crafts and dinner together and like games, so that the family was coming and doing something together, because that's kind of rare as well. Like the family's a bit falling apart. So they really wanted to encourage families doing things together, but also to encourage people to feel comfortable coming to a church. So that way, hopefully, prayerfully, they'll come maybe to a Sunday service or maybe something else that we put on. So I think like working in that environment and kind of learning more about just how that functions, I really appreciate that. And so I would like to implement more of that. I obviously don't know all your guys' outreach, but I love that the community, like there's a small community around here. It's not just like kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but you drive by the church all the time. Like I've driven by this church so many times I didn't even realize it, but but it's right there in the neighborhood, and with the schools being there. And so I'm excited to kind of see what like the Lord wants to do, not through me necessarily, but just to see what he has in store. And I'm excited for a new opportunity to serve in a different way, and maybe like hopefully bring gifts that the Lord's given me to help and like whatever he wants to do. So
absolutely.
I think for me, not just at the last church I was at, but just how I've grown up, how my parents who were in the church I grew up, they were the worship leaders of the church I grew up in. So all growing up, one thing that I've really learned that I was able to really grow in at the last church I was in, that I really feel like I can bring, is just that mix between, as technology's advancing, as we're in this completely new era of COVID and what that looks like, having more things online, and just generally how like music's going, becoming more and more technically there, and just really progressing, and the music's becoming better, is just how we can keep the Lord at the center, how we can ultimately worship him and it not be about any of that stuff while still using that and working out. And so what I've learned is just being okay with things that are uncomfortable and awkward moments and things. And I think at St. John's, it was a learning process. We didn't always get it right, but there were times where actually stepping out and doing something, or leaving just a bit of extra space that feels a bit awkward, feels a bit disjointed, to allow the Lord to come in and work, is so valuable, because ultimately that's what we're here to do. We're here to worship him. We're here to glorify him with our gifts and talents. And as a worship team, we're here to just facilitate that, just to play a small role in helping people to worship, and being in that position of being okay or open to there being slightly awkward, uncomfortable moments, but in order to see Jesus' name worshipped and glorified. That's something that I feel like is something that I always want to keep growing in and learning more about, but it's also something that over the years it's difficult and it is awkward and it is hard, but actually it's so good, and just kind of laying those things down and being like, in these awkward moments, okay, it's not about that stuff, it's not about how perfectly we just played that song or all of that, it's actually just about glorifying him.
I think like so much of worship oftentimes is just chalked up to the music or the quality of music, style, what have you. And so in your own words, Josh, how would you just define worship, acknowledging that it's so much more than just worshiping with our mouths and to music, I suppose. So just in your own words, how would you define worship?
Yeah, for me, worship is in its most simple form. It's just a response that us as humans have towards having a divine God come and work in this world and in our lives. It's purely just a response. So that covers how we speak, how we relate to people, corporately worshiping together on a Sunday, just everything. It's our response to what he is doing in our lives. And something I always love to think about is the Levites in the Old Testament. And in Exodus, it talks about when there's Moses and Joshua, and they go to the tent of meeting where the presence of the Lord is. And they go in there, and it says Moses met with the Lord face to face, and it was incredible and amazing. And when he left, he looked back to see if Joshua was following him, and Joshua stayed in the tent. And whenever I'm thinking about what worship looks like, that to me in its most simplest form it's just realizing how wonderful his presence is, how powerful his presence is. And so, music aside, even though music plays a wonderful part, the Lord designed it that way, but actually just meeting with the Lord, worshiping him with everything we have, and just realizing the gravity of that is worship to me.
Absolutely.
Worshipping the Lord doesn't have a start age and an end age. It's what you do with your life. And so I love youth worshipping, and I love getting the children involved in worship and just introducing it to them. They're never too young to start, and so that's how I see a lot of how I can get involved, is just really cultivating a sense of worship even at a really young age, making it so they can understand and they can worship the Lord through it, and having this body of people with kind of unified by this one thing of worshiping the Lord. If me in this position and us as a couple, we're just here to facilitate what the Lord's doing and who the people are worshiping. And if there's ever a time where I'm doing something that excludes a group of people or turns someone away, then I'm not doing the job right. I'm not doing what the Lord has me here for. It's purely to facilitate and to help direct with what the Lord's doing. But ultimately, if that's turning away a group of people, that's not it. And I think it's important to have certain things, for the youth that can speak more directly into the things that they're going through nowadays, and the older generation and the children. It's good to have specific things, but ultimately, as a whole, as a body, it's about just facilitating what the Lord's doing and just being a part of this community.
So our three big convictions, I guess you could say, here is prayer, discipleship, and outreach. And those are kind of broad terms. I would personally argue that should be the convictions of all churches all across the world. But here in Folsom, California, and at Community Bible Church, as we just kind of seek the Lord as to what He has for us in those three areas. I think as far as worship, and for you just being the leader of worship, and whether it's the ministry itself or just in the way that you can be serving alongside of us all, but also leading from within. Where do you see worship playing a role in? We'll just start with prayer, and then we'll go to discipleship and outreach.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with prayer, again, this whole thing about just meeting with the Lord and worshiping Him for who He is and what He's done in our lives. And so to do with prayer, our work is prayer. That's what we do. And so whether that be praying into these different areas and spending significant amount of time just in His presence ourselves. And for me, that it's not just a thing as part of my preparation for Sunday or something that's coming up, that it's just an integral part of my life and our lives to pray and to be before the Lord. And so just encouraging a sense of not only praying for people, but when we do pray, of just looking towards the Lord, worshiping Him through our prayer. With discipleship, that looks like coming alongside people. Did you say to go on to the other one? Just start with prayer. It looks like just coming alongside people and practically. Especially the role I'm stepping into as the worship director, coming alongside people practically and trying to find where the people's gifts lie and where they should be serving, and coming alongside them with their instruments and practically helping them kind of get better at that instrument, step into a place where they can be part of the worship team and serve on a Sunday and help worship the Lord through that. So coming alongside them and doing that, coming alongside the church as a whole, seeing the direction which the Lord's taking them and trying to facilitate, and ultimately make disciples of Him, help people through their gifts, through their talents, look towards Him in that role. And outreach as well, whether that's through like using music to reach into the community, but also just the way we live. Like we've been very conscious in finding a place close by that we can live in this cute little apartment, so we can be in the community, so we can, with our lives, through our conversations, we can be evangelists for Him and to share the good news, as well as kind of more specifically with music and through events. But ultimately, if we're going grocery shopping on a Saturday, that's outreach, that's living our lives for Him, that's worshiping Him through what we do.
So what's something that you guys feel you can anticipate, if you will, of being just a challenge, whether it's being newlyweds during a pandemic, newlyweds that have, crossed borders to be together? Like, what's a challenge that you guys are maybe even facing currently in this new season that you guys just, can anticipate in a lot of ways?
I think probably, when you're stepping into ministry, like more as an official role, I guess, because I've grown up like serving in the church and things, but stepping into more of like an official capacity, I think my head goes to, the challenges of being like the wife of someone who's in ministry and what that looks like. How do I encourage and help Josh in his role in worship, and then at the same time balancing serving and wherever I am and holding, I don't know, there's lots of things that you could juggle, I guess. Sure. And it's just, and then on top of that, kind of the pressure of maybe not that people are watching or judging, but you're just it's just a little bit different than just, serving at church. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily afraid of that, but I could see how you'd be I hope people don't think this of me, or worry about people's opinions, or if I'm doing something wrong, or wearing the wrong thing. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not assuming, but I'm saying, I think in my head, when I think about being in ministry full time, that's kind of what pops into, you could possibly be put in the fishbowl a bit, because, you're now in leadership. And so I think that can be, it's not something I'm anticipating, but I'm aware of that. And I think it could be a fear of mine, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And even if it did, obviously, the Lord, we know, we're being obedient to the Lord. And as long as we're following Him, nothing else really matters.
Yeah.
But I think that, and yeah, we were newlyweds, so I think just learning more about each other. We've been through a lot, and the almost 2 years that before we got married, being long distance, we really got to know each other really well, because when all you have is FaceTime, all you can do is talk. You know what I mean? So, so you got to talk about a lot, otherwise you run out. So, so I feel like we know each other really well. But yeah, at the same time, it's a lot. It's a new job. It's a new. I still have lived in this area, new town, new church. Meeting new people has probably been like a little bit like, oh wow, I have to like. Not that I won't see my old friends, but like make new friends as an adult. It's just it's a weird. Sometimes it's a bit weird. So
For sure.
so I think those are some of the like challenges. Nothing like that's daunting, but I think those are the things that I kind of think through a little bit as I like anticipate. Okay, this is a new season, but I'm also really excited for it because I love people and I love the church and I love ministry. So it's all things I'm very excited to be a part of, but. I'm aware of the realities of it, working at a church in the past and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, every season comes with the good and the hard.
Yeah.
But
I think that the very obvious one is me being in a new country, new culture. Obviously, my mum being American, we've like visited here a lot, but what I'm starting to realize, it's a lot different living here than just coming on holiday. So I think there's a lot of cultural things that are different, especially moving in such a crazy time as this, when there's lots of division, there's lots of negativity, there's just lots of things going on to kind of be immersed in and be like, hey, this is real, this is happening, just as much in the church as everywhere else. And obviously small things like not having regular cups of tea and biscuits and watching football and the correct
AKA
football, the correct football. But no, I think that is very real, and just understanding how people operate, the nuances of little things, especially in the church, just how things are done. I've noticed that, church expands all across the world, but there's actually smaller things within the congregation that's just slightly different here, that things are done differently. And so just, especially coming in and stepping into church leadership, trying to understand that, try and get used to that, be a part of it. And there's great things that I can bring over from England, the way things are done. But there's also a lot to learn being here. So I think that's a big challenge. Another little challenge is just very real what's happening at the moment, with things being more online, not knowing where the church is going to be in 3 months, 6 months, a year, how long all this stuff's going to last. So it's another challenge just for us to be like, okay, with all the negativity of what's happening, and it is really hard. Okay, how can we actually just worship the Lord? What are the opportunities that we can see in this? What doors of the Lord is the Lord opening? So that's another real challenge of starting in this role amongst this craziness.
Totally.
Yeah.
What's something that you guys are what's something that you're excited for in this new season? Let's do individually. Individually, what are you excited for? But then as a couple, in this starting marriage together here, what are you excited for as a pair?
Yeah. So individually, I think, just the nature of the role, I love people. We both love people. I'm just so excited about getting to know the team, especially the worship team, but just getting to know the church, meeting people, seeing what the Lord has in store for us, seeing what people's dreams are, and just I'm so excited about kind of just coming alongside people, hearing what visions they have, and just trying to be able to facilitate, using the skills and the experience that I've got just to try and do that and try and see how the Lord's going to use us and use me to help people worship, I think is,
I think I'm excited to kind of just experience, I guess, something new, and this will be lasting. But I attended my old church for 16 years, a long time. So you just kind of get in your groove and have served in youth and some children's ministry stuff, but just kind of seeing what the Lord wants to do here, where He wants me and how I fit in, and I think meeting new people and it's gonna be all new, which is funny because it's like, the area I grew up in. I thought this would be all new in England, but now it's just gonna be here in Folsom. And I'm really excited for our new place is really close. I'm excited. These are more practical things, but excited to be like really close to the river and just be able to like walk down there and hang out and have people over and just experience community here. And what the Lord wants to do with our peers and our friendships that we're going to make, as well as just people we can come alongside or so I think I'm really excited about that and just to experience like more full-time ministry. I've always had a heart for it, but I never thought it would be actually something that happened. You know what I mean? So it's besides working in England, but so I'm really excited to see kind of just praying through it and seeing where the Lord has me, and so just kind of settling to what, not that I was settling, but kind of just doing what I'd always kind of done before. But if the Lord wants to do something new, or maybe it's kind of the same arena but on a different avenue. It's a new church, so it's new things and different kind of ministries, and so I'm excited about that because I love the church, and I think it's really important to be in it and serving in it, and to encourage and love and people who are a part of it. So I think that's what I'm excited about.
And just for us as a couple, this feels like a start of a new season, starting afresh as a newlywed couple. Obviously, like the distance and stuff we've had to deal with, it seems like we have gone through a lot. We've been through a lot to be here, and so we're excited just to kind of date. We're still dating. It feels like this is a whole different. We actually get to be in person. We get to go to the movies and but just it seems like a new season, a fresh start. We love the church that Amanda's come from, but it kind of felt like just everything's over the past 3-4 months. So much has changed in our lives, and just for the Lord to kind of say like, okay, I'm going to put you here to put some roots down. And just for us to kind of start that afresh as a married couple, and just to explore what the Lord has for us together, and not have to worry about things like before when I was in the Air Force, just thinking about what that will look like when I'm away and different things. And so just resetting our minds to be like, okay, the Lord's actually brought us together and we can be together, and just enjoying that just as much as actually now being a part of a bigger community. We're really excited about.
Not counting down the days when we had to say goodbye again. As always. So I think that's what, we're just excited to make a home together. We've always talked about this too. It's really important, like just that our home would be like a place that people can be a part of, and that can be open, and just reaching out to our neighbors. Like I always thought that, like I can't remember the last time I even saw my neighbor, but like being aware of like who we live around, and being like just a witness there, and loving people and getting to know people who are in our literal community who lives next to us, and and just having an open door for like game nights and like movie nights, pizza nights, whatever it might be, worship nights, having a place that's available for that, and that's something we're really excited about. So we won't give our address, but we're close by. I was like, you can come knock on the door, but no. So I think, very, very excited.
That's very exciting. Well, I feel like I can speak for myself, but I feel like I can speak for so many people just when I say you guys, and the timing of you coming here, and the way in which things have just really, I just feel like seamlessly have fallen into place. I just like keep thinking this thought so often, like over the last couple weeks, just like, man, God's timing is so perfect, and he just proves how good he is with that perfect timing. And I just look at just in the time that I've been here, just how faithful he's been, and just his sovereignty on display, and in all of our different ministries from kids all the way through. And so anyway, I what I'm trying to say is you guys are just such an answer to prayer, answer to my prayers and for our church, and I just feel so sure of so many things that are happening right now. God is really, he's prepared you guys, and I think he's prepared us in a lot of ways. And it took a global pandemic to get you out of the Air Force. It took, and even for you, Amanda, just reframing, like, you were gonna be an Air Force wife up until God made a way for something else. And I am just so excited for you guys to be a part of all of this.
Very excited.
So, church, we will see you this weekend at 9 o'clock on the lawn or 10 o'clock online. And make sure that if you are here, that you say hi to Josh and say hi to Amanda. Or you can shoot him an email, say welcome. And we're just all so glad you guys are here.
And we really like food, just so you know. We really like food. Just throw that out there. We love food. We love lunch. We love dinner.